Hello Americans, this is Natasha from Russia, and we want to thank you for all your sanctions, for taking away from our country Coca-Cola, KFC, McDonald's, and all that shit. We understand that you take care of our healthiness. Healthy, and that's why we'll be stronger and more beautiful and without fat. So we take care of you too, and that's why we cut our gas. So you have to walk by foot instead of using your cars. Don't thank you. Don't say thank you. Friendship. I am so sorry. I have to go to feed my bear and drink vodka and play balalaika right now. See you later. From Russia with love.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. So Zelensky isn't doing so well. Western nations and the United Nations continue to pretend to help, but it's clear that they're not. When they're talking about sanctions and shopping for weapons, they're not really serious about helping Ukraine. They continue to just sit at meetings, waste time, while nothing tangible is being done. They say they send money and weapons, assuming that's even true, but the war is well underway and a much more urgent response is needed. It's obvious that the Ukraine needs people to fight with them on the ground. Instead, they've been getting well wishes and I'm with you in spirit kind of responses from the rest of the world. From the beginning, the support by the West has been half-hearted. A couple of weeks ago, when people had just started fleeing, a Ukrainian woman in the UK was basically begging Boris Johnson to do more, mainly by having Western nations implement a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And just now, Canadian Ukrainians are saying that nothing is being done for them. Good thing Canadians are moving from printing stickers to printing stamps. But the latest and brightest of love letters that Zelensky has received is without question from Israel. It wasn't exactly a warm welcome he received at the Knesset, and he was turned down from speaking at the Holocaust Memorial Center for fear that comparisons would be drawn between the Russian invasion and the Holocaust, which is a big no-no for the Holocaust industry. During the Ukraine's Holodomor famine, a similar no-no was made. It's an older story, but it's an important one, so I will link a video that covers this, and I encourage you to have a look so you get a sense of what's gone by before in Ukraine. But these days seem especially sensitive for the Holocaust industry because the Holocaust narrative has been losing ground. In North America, there is a decrease in interest and seriousness toward the Holocaust. So much so that it was an ongoing concern throughout the Canadian convoy protest.
Those groups that have been targeted by Nazis and neo-Nazis in this country, you see swastikas and Confederate flags, but specifically swastika flags, on Parliament Hill, walking down residential streets, as the councillor just noted. I mean, it does fill you with apprehension, it fills you with fear, it fills you with concern. And as a child of Holocaust survivor, I understand it, but I actually think most Canadians get this. And it's not just a few malcontents or a couple flags. This so-called convoy actually seeded the ground, in my opinion, for the worst display of Nazi and racist propaganda that I have ever seen in this country. And I've been to lots of protests.
But the award goes to Bennett for advising Zelensky to surrender to Russia and to yield to Russia's demands. I mean, this deserves a standing ovation. As you might expect, Zelensky turned down the offer. The truth is that the Zio Western nations are not in a position to help Ukraine because they know this is a losing battle, and they're not about to get their hands dirty with it. Ukraine is a pawn in the hands of a bigger game. All the Zio West can do, apart from sending love notes to Zelensky and being with the Ukrainian people in spirit, is to promote media lies. Pitiful attempts at making Russia look like it's faltering under the weight of sanctions continue, just as they did with Syria's war and the sanctions on Iran, like I said in my previous video. These media lies make no difference to deter Russia, Iran, China, or Syria. They only serve to isolate Western people from the realities of the rest of the world. But in truth, this fake narrative also serves the Zio West to push its own agenda against its own people. But nothing beats the sanctions by McDonald's, leaving Russia along with Dunkin' Donuts and other non-food joints. It's not that they should disappear from Russia, it's that they should disappear from the entire planet. Wherever you are, get your act together and boycott these garbage companies that do nothing but prey on your bad health and destroy your agricultural lands. You would think that the World Health Organization would encourage such a move and ask all countries to take steps against fast food and GMOs. Instead, the World Health Organization is asking Ukraine to destroy biolabs so that viruses don't spread. In view of the ongoing COVID pandemic, this is an especially inconvenient time for these biolabs to come to the surface because they're worried that some of us might have the foolish idea to think that the COVID pandemic was maybe a man-made bioweapon. There is a history of the US doing biolab business in the Ukraine, and now that this is being blown out of the water, the Zio West, the World Health Organization, and their fake news propaganda machines are scrambling to cover up their tracks. Even if the details of the US-Ukraine collaboration over the biolabs are buried deep in Mossad's operation, you can tell that they're trying to cover up their tracks when they use words like fact-checking and conspiracies. At this time, Russia's UN rep is asking the US to clarify its role in these labs, and now China has joined the questioning. My crystal ball tells me this isn't going to go too well for the US. I expect the US to drag it on so as to avoid dealing with it as much as possible and try to get an exit for when the war is over. You can bet that the US will sell off Ukraine to protect its interests. In fact, it already has. The sanctions are not working. Any attempt at marginalizing Russia is already backfiring. And now Venezuela will be brought back to the table, and it will be in a position to impose terms and conditions on any deal. Iran is twisting arms over the nuclear deal, pushing and pulling as it likes. On top of this, Iran just targeted an Israeli base in a Kurdish location. Sorry attempts by the Arabian Gulf countries to step in has triggered stern warnings from Putin, plus a bomb or two by the Yemeni Houthis on Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia responded by executing 81 Shias. In my opinion, any attempts at destabilizing the region again will be quickly met with a military response at this point. The West just needs to throw its hands up and admit defeat. Actually, I was impressed that one of the biggest failures of the Zio West, John Bolton, has had the insight to admit defeat.
Understand, we're in the midst of failure from the point of view of the West, from the point of view of the Western alliance. It's no consolation to us that Russia has invaded Ukraine, but we're responding with punishing sanctions on Russia. We fine with that? We think the situation should just go on? Let's examine the failure, because that's going to tell us what happens next. And the failure was, led by the United States, the West did not deter Russia from invading to begin with. And the consequences of that failure are what are playing out now every day. I've been a very strong proponent of sanctions over the years, often because I wanted regime change as the end result.
The only reason Western powers are in the region is to protect Israel. Israel is a failed state on every level, and right now it is rightfully terrified by the unfolding change in the regional balance of power because of the very strong possibility that it could suffer a similar fate to Ukraine, even if it doesn't happen in the exact same way. They seem to be having other issues as well, like having to shut down the Haifa port or divest it. A while back, they were concerned that certain materials at the Haifa port could be hazardous. Interestingly enough, the Beirut port had a similar experience. So Israel should be careful it doesn't suffer similar experiences. A complete change in the balance of power is ahead.
Now, what's your favorite thing here, Mr. President?
I like it all. It's all good stuff.
Do you
Great American food.